Fair warning, I'm recording in here. Hey guys, I look rough. It's 9:30 p.m. and we are still in the process of setting up our sober living facility that is to hopefully open. We're gonna get our house manager in next week. Hopefully we'll be able to start getting people from the waiting list in 2 weeks from now. But this is what it looks like right now. Gotta break a few eggs, right? Hey guys, Jen's here. That was me after a long weekend at our first sober living facility. I'm gonna go back tomorrow morning, still have a few loose ends to tie up. But today I just wanted to, I'm gonna go through kind of what has evolved as far as our onboarding process and where we're at right now. When I say onboarding, I'm referring to the onboarding of licensees or guests at the home. They are licensees or guests. They are not tenants or residents because we don't want to run into squatters' rights issues. So let me open this up for you. So as far as our onboarding process, I actually have the house manager and the licensees outlined here. So the document outlines the required paperwork. And again, this is for internal use. Right off the bat, what we want to do, because we're business owners, we don't want to be stuck doing all of the like tedious day-to-day work for the long run. So we want to start documenting and putting together SOPs right away so that we can grow and scale and hand off day-to-day tasks. So this document outlines the required paperwork and necessary steps for onboarding managers, licensees, and also we added anyone working in the Haven Hall Residences property or with its licensees as deemed appropriate by Haven Hall Residences directors. Again, this is for internal use. This is not a legal document, but the reason that I decided to have some paperwork and onboard contractors and helpers, what you might find when you're doing this is you might meet some locals that just have it in their heart to help out with this sort of project, or, whether it's maids or subcontractors, handymen, whatever, they want to help out. One, if you, with your GC, they probably have liability in their own drug screening and all that. But if you just have like a helper or a maid or somebody in the house, maybe somebody that has been a user in the past and is still at risk of a relapse, you want to have some protections in place to make sure that they aren't working on your property, potentially damaging the property or injuring themselves, or putting your guests at risks by exposing them, like if they show up under the influence or with paraphernalia or anything like that. You want to make sure that the expectations are set up front, that that's not allowed at your property, even if they are not a guest or an employee. Anyway, so for the house manager, I'm gonna go through this pretty quick because I don't want this to be too long. In fact, I'm gonna set myself a timer real quick so that I don't end up having to spend a ton of time editing this down later on. Okay. So we have an online application where anyone, prospective house manager or a licensee or guest can come in and just say, hey, I'm looking for a bed. I want to get out of the Salvation Army or whatever program or housing they might be in now. They can fill out the application. It just asks for some basic info about their situation. And then we have a waiting list. We can call these people back and learn more about them once we have a bed become available. After that, after we look at their questionnaire, we're going in, and it seems like there's nothing obvious that precludes them. Like in this case, this is a sober living facility. So if their issue is homelessness without any active sobriety or drug use, then we may refer them out to other resources. But once we read the results of the form that they filled out, to apply, then we will send them an intake package, and we can go into what's in that intake package in more detail, but basic detail later, but basically it's going to go over well, actually, we'll touch on that here in just a second. So with the intake package, it's going to include an intake assessment. It's going to go over the house rules and regulations. Let's just do that up front, because if somebody reads the house rules and regulations right up front, and they're like, that's not for me, I can't live that way, then good. Let's save each other all some time. And then there's a media consent form. So if we record any meetings, or like in this case, both two of the house managers that we had interviewed both agreed to let me record the interviews so that we could use them for educational purposes in the future. So then they return the completed package to the directors, and we'll file those away so that everybody knows where to access those records. Haven Hall directors review completed intake package to qualify or disqualify the candidate. Automatic disqualification for us is if criminal history includes a sexual offense within the last 15 years, or if it involved minor or arson. And also, if the person needs medical assistance, we are not an assisted living facility, or this is not an assisted living facility, so we can't help people with like feeding or getting dressed or medical needs. And then for the house manager position, candidates should have been sober for, we're still working that out as far as how long that should be. And then if the candidate is disqualified, we'll communicate those results to them via phone, text, or email. We may or may not disclose the reason for the disqualification. If the candidate is deemed qualified, then this is for the house manager. So skip forward to steps 4 through 6 under licensee. Then for the house manager position, after those steps are completed, the next step would be a separate house manager agreement, which talks about their roles and responsibilities. And then we'll have a drug test and background check. Again, we're not going to disqualify, any, what's the word? This is the problem with recording at the end of the day. I lose words. Like any assault charges or anything like that. That would negate, if somebody got in a bar fight, we don't want to rule everybody out for stuff like that, but we will do a background check to make sure that the criminal history, again, doesn't include those items, those no-goes, those hard stops that I mentioned before. Then once all of that is good, we'll go ahead and we might do this in tandem. We can go ahead and schedule a move-in date while we're waiting for the results of a drug or background test, and then send them a move-in checklist. It's the things that they are and are not allowed to bring with them into the house. For example, obviously, no drugs, weapons, stuff like that, but also outlining things like you're only allowed to bring 2 weeks worth of clothes. Otherwise, sometimes people, I've heard, will try and move, an entire apartment into the house. So, and then we'll meet to discuss, again, this is with the house manager, we'll meet to discuss property specific details like trash schedules, unique things they might need to know about mechanicals in the house, and then any licensee updates, people coming in, or if we're transitioning to a new house manager when the house is full, we'll probably want to, bring them up to speed on some of the individual personalities in the household. So for the licensee, again, it's the same thing, completing the initial form, and then we'll send them the intake package when we see their interest and it looks like a good fit. Using that package, we'll further determine if they are a qualified candidate for a bed in this house. Let me see, I might be finding some typos. Automatic disqualification. Okay, yeah. See, I need to indent this right here in the under the licensee. So got myself a little formatting error. Thank you for helping me catch that, guys. So automatic disqualification, once again, sexual offense within 15 years, nothing involving a minor, and then arson, and if they need medical assistance. And then for the guests in the house, they must have been sober for a minimum of 2 weeks, preferably have completed a medical detox. If the candidate has been sober less than 2 weeks, then at our discretion, given all of the information provided in the intake documents, then we may invite them to keep testing and return until they meet the sobriety requirement. If the candidate is disqualified, we'll communicate the results again via phone, text, or email. If the candidate is deemed qualified, then we'll move on to the next step. So this is steps 4 through 6 that we had mentioned above in the house manager. The director will review the intake package with the prospective licensee. This is going to be in person or Zoom, so we can get clarification in anything that they entered into that form. We can set expectations, and also we can look for any signs or clues that might indicate red flags or dishonesty when they filled out the form on paper. Clearly, you can get a better idea if somebody's telling the truth when you have a face-to-face interview. So we'll record the meeting. And again, when we have, wow, that went fast. Okay, so I need to speed this up so I don't have to make a part 2 again. Okay, so we will blah, 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 focus on the criminal history, make sure there are no no-goes in there, no hard stops. Confirm whether there are any physical limitations that would prevent them from participating in the house chores. That's not a hard stop, but we'll determine if there are any accommodations we can make. Like maybe they do some chores and not others. And then we'll reiterate that within 10 days of moving in, they're required to be enrolled in a program and have a sponsor. Unless otherwise mandated by the court, the licensee must be employed within 15 days of move-in. We have resources to help with that. We need to talk about what are the prospective licensees' triggers for use. Maybe we can help avoid that or get them some coaching around that. We let them know that their fees are to be paid in advance, whether they're going to do weekly or monthly. And we do a brief overview of the house rules to make sure that everybody understands and is clear about what the house rules are. Again, if the candidate is disqualified at this point, we'll communicate those results to them. If the candidate is still qualified, then we'll have them complete the licensee agreement. This is them acknowledging, that they're going to follow the rules. If they damage the house, then that's on them, all kinds of stuff. But again, we can go into detail on that in the future. And then we'll have them perform the drug test and background check and schedule a move-in date, send the move-in checklist. And then for the licensees, we'll coordinate any necessary resources that were identified during the onboarding process. Like if they need help getting their driver's license, if they came in unemployed and need help getting a job, if they want to enroll in education, maybe the court mandated something that they need to do that we can help them get set up with. And then, of course, creating electronic files for everyone. And then for just a kind of an add-on, this was still a work in progress, but I think this is it for these. But for any contractors, volunteers, or other helpers working on the property, their scope of work and any compensation details that they are being paid would have been worked out prior in a separate scope of work agreement. And then additionally, we have a contractor agreement, again, that outlines that there can be nobody can be on the property under the influence. Basically, it outlines a drug policy for working on our properties for these people. Okay, hopefully I have gotten this all in under time. I won't have to make any edits. And again, I hope that this is helpful for anyone else out there that is either, oh, I don't have to share my screen anymore. For anyone else out there that is either thinking about going into setting up group homes or sober living facilities or already in it. If you have any questions, I know sometimes you need answers on the fly, hit me up in comments and, or you can hit me up in my Jen's, it's at JensHere_AF on Instagram. Send me any messages and questions and DMs. And if I can get them answered, I would love to do that for you. All right, everyone, take care, be ethical, and have fun.